everyone, welcome to Learning Impact. In today's lecture, we will discuss culture uniformity in sociology. We will talk about its definition, causes, impact, and at the last, we will discuss some of the examples of the culture uniformity in order to understand it more deeply. First, we have to look at what is culture uniformity. Uniformity means similarity, homogeneity. So culture uniformity means when there is a similarity among the various lifestyle. There is a similarity in the ways of living of various culture. This is a culture uniformity. Now it might be a possibility that the uniformity, or we can say the similarity, exists within a culture, like various ethnicities. For example, in case of the Pakistan culture, which is the mainstream culture, but within a Pakistani society, there are various ethnicities that live together, and these ethnicities can also show some resemblance in their way of life that would be called a culture uniformity. But on the other hand, we also have the culture uniformity on a global level, that there is now modernization, globalization, which has turned the whole world into a global village. And in that way, there is now more diffusion of the similar way of living in almost every culture. So it can also be called as the culture uniformity, but it is on a broader level. So culture uniformity isn't all about the similarities within a society, but it might be a similarity between or among the various societies. For example, the Pakistani and Indian society, they also show some resemblance in their way of life, their food choices, their music choice. These all are also the culture uniformity. First, we have to look into its definition. Culture uniformity in sociology refers to the degree or extent to which a society or group exhibit a common set of cultural traits, values, norms, and practices. So we can say that culture uniformity refers to which a society or group exhibit a common set of cultural traits, values, norms, and practices. So it actually implies a high level of homogeneity in the way people think, behave, and interact within a given social context. So this concept is often contrasted with the cultural diversity, which highlights the presence of multiple and distinct cultural expressions within a society. So we can say that the degree or the extent up to which the society or a group they reflect a similar kind of the cultural traits, this will be called a culture uniformity. So there are various key aspects of the culture uniformity, like there might be that members of the society or group, they adhere to a common set of values, norms, and ideologies. So it might be because of the shared norms and ideologies. It may be because of the common practices, like there is a widespread agreement on social norms, rituals, and customs, such as the dress code, also the religious practices, the language, and also it may be because of the standardization of behavior, that the people, they exhibit a similar kind of behavior. People tend to conform to expected behaviors, and which actually leads to the reduction of variation in how individuals act in a similar situation. Similarly, it can also be culture uniformity actually facilitate cultural integration, and institutions like education, media, and religion, they work to reinforce and perpetuate the dominant culture, which led to their cohesive culture framework. So in case of the culture uniformity, as we discussed, that in Pakistan there is one mainstream culture which is called the national culture. Like for example, we have the national language, that is Urdu, but within our main society there are various ethnicities and subgroups which has their own culture, like Pashtun culture, Balochi culture, Sindhi culture, and they all have their own distinct language, their own distinct values and lifestyle and food choices. So we can say that in case of the culture uniformity, when the mainstream culture is more uniform or similar to the subcultures, it can lead to the reduction in the subculture variations also. In society with a high culture uniformity, subcultures or counterculture may be less prominent or actively suppressed. So whenever there is a society where there is a high culture uniformity, there will be less chances of culture emergence of the countercultures. We have discussed that what does it mean by counterculture. I have already made lecture on subculture and counterculture and how are these all terminologies different from each other. You must visit that lecture in order to understand it deeply. But for now, I will say that in case that when we have the high culture uniformity, it will actually overcome the chances of the emergence of the counterculture. And also the subculture will also get embedded in the mainstream culture. Then the other definition is that culture uniformity is the similarities that exist in two or more cultures that influence effective communication, unity, and interaction of different cultures to trade. As we have discussed, that culture uniformity isn't all about the similarity of the lifestyle within a single society. It is not only about the single culture. There might be that the culture uniformity exists within a single society, but there is also a possibility that there will be culture uniformity among the various cultures, two or more cultures, where there are various similarities and it influences the effective communication, unity, interaction of different cultures to trade. For example, the Pakistan and Indian society, they both have passed, like Pakistan, which made as a result of the subcontinent division in 1947, and the Pakistan and India, they have this similar history. They have actually ruled by the British, and that's why there is still an impact of the cultural colonialism, the British colonialism in our culture. So we can say that the Pakistan and Indian, they almost show the similar kind of culture. And whenever you observe in Western countries, this will be the Pakistani and Indian people who actually get mixed with each other more. Okay, and this is the reason that in Western countries, the Pakistani and the Indian, they show more welcoming towards, they are more welcoming towards each other. So it's maybe because that they have the similar kind of the culture. They do understand each other more effectively as compared to the Pakistani and the Korean culture, as compared of the Indian and the Singaporean culture, because their culture is diametrically different. So we can say that culture uniformity is a similarity that exists with maybe between the two cultures or maybe more than two, like Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. There are three societies, three different cultures, but still there are various similarities exist among them. So we can say that culture uniformity will actually facilitate effective communication, unity, and interaction of different cultures to trade. So there are various reasons that why we have such kind of the various cultures that are showing more resemblance to each other. It is one of the reasons is the globalization, like the spread of the global cultures through media, technology, and trade, which actually lead to the homogenization of cultural practices. And also we have the socialization, which actually play a key role. Institutions like families, schools, and media, they play a role in transmitting a unified culture to a new generations. Also we have the kind of economic system or the political system that are more or less alike, like in case of the democracy, which is actually has become a global norm. It has become a universal norm for each and every society. So every society is striving to have a democratic system, and just because of this similar and more or less alike political system has actually led to the similar kind of the culture, which is called the global culture. So this was the culture uniformity. Now we will look into the causes of the culture uniformity, that what are actually the causes or the reasons that leads to the emergence of such homogenization of various cultures. So there are various causes of the culture uniformity. We will discuss each one by one. First is the globalization. As we have discussed, that globalization actually turned the world into a global village, and this had led to the culture uniformity. Culture uniformity arises from various social, political, economic, and technological factors that promote the adoption of a common culture within a society or across societies. So there are key causes. First is the globalization, like the globalization connects people, economies, and cultures worldwide through trade, technology, and communication, and it is a result of the globalization that the dominant cultures, like for example often the Western culture, they spread globally, leading to the adoption of similar practices such as the consumerism, fast food, and entertainment. So these all are the culture that are a part of each and every society. So this is because of the globalization, and it has become more and more common to each and every culture. So we can take example like the worldwide popularity of the Hollywood movies. Also the American fast food chains like McDonald's. McDonald's has the branches in almost each and every country. So it has become part of each and every culture. Similarly, the global fashion trends. These are also the examples of the culture uniformity which has arisen as a result of globalization. Then the second is the socialization. Socialization is the process to internalize the norms. The socialization, the process by which individuals they learn the norms, values, and behaviors of their society through the institution like family, schools, and religious organization had a key role in transmitting a unified culture to new generations. For example, if we take the education institution, which is considered a secondary socializing agent, schools teaching a standardized national history, or we can take a religious institution which actually promote the shared moral values according to which is particular to each religious doctrine. So these are the socialization which actually leads to the culture uniformity. Then the other is the urbanization. As people move to cities, traditional culture practices, it may be replaced by more standardized and urban lifestyle. So urban areas often serve as a hubs for the diffusion of the dominant culture norms. So we can take example like the decline of the rural traditions and the adoption of urban lifestyle, such as for example, the fast-paced work environment, and also the modern entertainment, the modern music. So these all are the traits of the urban life, which actually reflect in the culture of the people who actually migrated from rural to urban areas. So in that way, the culture diffused from the urban areas to the people of the rural areas also. So this is the reason that the culture uniformity exists even between the rural and urban region people within a single society. Then the other cause is the colonialism. Colonialism is also one of the reasons, alongside the globalization, it has led to the culture uniformity. So these are the colonial powers that often impose their culture, language, and institution on colonized society, which actually leads to the erosion of the indigenous cultures and the adoption of the colonizers' culture. For example, the spread of the English language. The English is used as a colonial tool by these powers, and also the British culture practices in former colonies like India and Nigeria. And also we are still observing the impact of the colonialism Britain in India. So it is because that the culture uniformity has actually emerged or arisen because of the colonialism history also. And it has actually led to the erosion of the indigenous cultures. Similarly, we have other causes like the migration. Migration and the culture exchange, it can lead to the blending of cultures, but they can also result in the dominance of one culture over the another, especially if one group holds more power or influence. So what will happen, like for example, the spread of the American culture through migration and the influence of the American expatriates in other countries. So the spread of the American culture could also be one of the examples, like each and every society, they are tending to have more inclination towards the American culture because America is a society that has more power and influence. So this is also one of the reasons that the more and more people they are migrating to a similar society, and they are internalizing their norms, and when they come back to their own countries, they then try to practice that norms in that way, which leads to the culture uniformity. Similarly, the education system. Education system is also one of the cause of the culture uniformity. Example like, for example, the Soviet Union's promotion of the communist ideology and the suppression of cultural diversity to maintain the political unity by the education system. And we can take other examples, like in case of the Pakistan and India, we also have the education system that are mostly inspired by the English literature because of the impact of the colonialism. So schools in many countries, they teach a standardized version of history that actually emphasize the national unity and shared heritage also. Like in case of the India and Pakistan, we had a kind of curriculum that actually propagate the rivalry between the Pakistan and India. So this could also be a kind of the transmission of knowledge to our new generation, which is actually, triggering the wave of hate among the Pakistani and Indians for each other. So these are the education system which actually leads to the, making people like-minded. All the people, they then tend to think of the different things similarly in the same way, and it then leads to the emergence of the similar kind of thoughts, beliefs, and ideas. Then the mass media and technology. Mass media and technology is also one of the cause of the culture uniformity. For example, mass media include TV, radio, internet, social media, And technology actually disseminates culture content to large audiences. It often promotes a dominant culture. So this can lead to the homogenization of taste, preferences, and lifestyle. So the global influence of the social media platforms like Instagram, which popularize the similar kind of beauty standards, fashion trends, and lifestyle. So these all lead to the kind of global culture, which we call the culture uniformity. Similarly, we have the political and economic systems. Like the authoritarian governments or the centralized economies, they may enforce culture uniformity to maintain their control and stability. So similarly, the capitalist economy, they often promote consumer culture, which can lead to the culture homogenization. But on the other hand, we have the other societies, communist society like the Soviet Union and the China, they mostly promote the communist values. So the political and the economic system could also be one of the reasons that the people show a similar kind of attitude towards the various ideologies in the same way. For example, in case of the American people, they will show a kind of negative attitude towards the communism and the socialism because they are themselves part of the society which is run by the capitalism. Similarly, on the other hand, the Soviet and the China, these people will think of the capitalism as the evil. What kind of systems prevail in a society has actually a huge impact on the minds of the people. Then the other is the consumerism. Consumerism is also a cause of the culture uniformity. Consumerism and market forces, like for example the global markets and the advertising, they actually advertise and promote consumer culture, encouraging people to adopt similar lifestyle, products, and values. So this often leads to the erosion of the local tradition in favor of the globalized practices. For example, the global popularity of brands like Coca-Cola, Apple, which promote a standardized consumer culture. So we can say that it is because of the similar kind of the products that we are using. Like for example, either you're from India, you're from Pakistan, from any country, you will familiar of the Coca-Cola brand. This is because of the culture uniformity, that all the products, they have been advertised on a global level in the similar way, and also brands that actually instigate a kind of false needs in the mind of the human, that they are viewing all these things as something essential to their life. So this is all the behavior of the consumerism. Then the religious influence. Religious influence is also one of the causes of the culture uniformity. What kind of religion, ideologies prevail in your society will impact your attitude. So in society where a single religion dominates, religious institutions often promote culture uniformity by encouraging adherence to shared beliefs, rituals, and the moral codes especially. So the influence of Islam in Saudi Arabia, where religious practices shape daily life, laws, and social norms. Similarly, in case of the India, the Hinduism actually propagate caste system there. In the same way, it has impact, like the most of the people, they will support the caste system. Social pressure. In many society, there is pressure to conform to dominant culture norms to gain acceptance or avoid social exclusion. So this can lead to the suppression of the alternative culture expressions. For example, the dress codes in school or workplaces that actually enforce a specific style of clothing and discouraging the culture or individual diversity. So this is the social pressure or the conformity to the culture norms to gain acceptance that lead to the culture uniformity. Then the last one is the technology. Technology, and for especially the internet, it has made it easier for dominant cultures to spread across the globe. Like people, they are exposed to similar content, and it leading to the adoption of uniform culture practices. So the global influence of platforms like YouTube and TikTok, which popularize similar trends and behaviors. So we can say that culture uniformity is caused by the combination of globalization, socialization, mass media, and political system, urbanization, and also the other factors like the education, religion, colonialism, migration, consumerism, social pressure, technology. These all are the causes which actually lead to the emergence of the culture uniformity. And these factors work together to promote a shared culture, often at the expense of the cultural diversity. So while culture uniformity can foster social cohesion and stability, but it can also lead to the loss of the unique traditions and the practices. Now we will discuss the impact of the culture uniformity. Okay, impact of the culture uniformity, there are various impacts. For example, the social cohesion. It is obvious that in a society where there are more inclination towards each other, more similarities, and there are people who are like-minded people, of course it will strengthen their bonds. So social cohesion and unity is one of the product of the culture uniformity. Culture uniformity promotes a shared identity, values, and norms, which can strengthen the social bonds, and it can overcome the chances of conflict, of course. So in Japan, for example, the strong emphasis on shared cultural values like respect, harmony, and hard work, it has contributed to social stability and a sense of national unity. The other impact is the communication. When people they share same language, customs, and beliefs, so communication become more efficient, and in that way the misunderstandings they are often reduced. There are less chances of misunderstandings. So in countries like France, where French is the dominant language, and culture, communication, and collaboration are streamlined across regions. Similarly, in case of the Pakistan, Urdu is the mainstream or the official language, and all the people whenever they go, the Pakistani, they have the basic knowledge of Urdu, so they all know how to read and write Urdu because it is the national language, because of it is a part of our culture. Similarly, whenever in case of the India, there are also various cultural diversities, but the main language which they use for communication is the Hindi language, and it actually facilitates the communication process. It makes it easier to communicate with other Indians. Similarly, the other impact is the economic efficiency. Culture uniformity can simplify production, marketing, and consumption by creating standardized preferences and practices. So, for example, global brands like McDonald's and the Coca-Cola, they benefit from the culture uniformity by offering the same products worldwide because they know that all the people, the consumer behavior has become more or less alike. Now, all the people, they are in demand of Coca-Cola, so they have to produce only one product and to distribute it among the various countries. So, it actually reduced the need for customization, and it actually enhanced the efficiency of the economy. Then the other is the political stability. These all are the positive impacts of culture uniformity. Okay, so if there is a political stability, a unified culture can strengthen national identity and loyalty to the state, reducing the likelihood of the internal conflicts. And remember that whenever there is a less chance of internal conflicts, that country can stand against all the rivalries and enemies, all the external forces. No force can ever destroy such country who have these strong social bonds, who have the less chances of the internal conflicts. So for example, the Singapore, the promotion of the shared national identity among the diverse ethnic groups has contributed to political stability and also the economic success. Then the other is the preservation of tradition. In some cases, cultural uniformity has preserved traditional practices and values that might otherwise be lost. So it actually have in preservation of tradition. In case of the indigenous communities that maintain their cultural uniformity often succeed in preserving their language, rituals, and heritage and give them a unique identity. These are the positive impacts. Now turn to the negative impacts of the cultural uniformity. Loss of cultural diversity. Alongside that, we have the capability to preserve the tradition of the indigenous community, but on the other hand, there will be more chances of the loss of cultural diversity. Cultural uniformity can lead to the erosion of the unique traditions, languages, and practices, resulting in homogenized cultures. So the decline of the indigenous languages and customs in many parts of the world due to dominance of the globalized cultures. We have the globalized culture which actually evading all the signs of the local cultures. And as we discussed, Coca-Cola is a single brand that has to produce similar kind of product because all consumers around the world are in need or demand of that product. So this can lead to the erosion of diversity, suppression of individuality, loss of individuality. For example, in society with high cultural uniformity, so individuals who do not conform to the dominant culture, they may face marginalization or discrimination. In some conservative society, people who challenge the traditional gender roles or religion norms, they may be ostracized or punished. So there is a chance that there will be more suppression of individuality, like there will be less chances that the people they will exhibit the deviant behavior. They all have to agree and align and conform their behavior to the mainstream norms. Similarly, culture imperialism. Dominant cultures can overshadow or replace the local cultures, often through globalization or colonialism. For example, the spread of the Western fast food, fashion, and media, it has led to the decline of the local cuisine, clothing styles, and entertainment in many countries. So these are the culture imperialism, which has actually replaced the local cultures. Similarly, the resistance. Groups that feel their culture is being suppressed, they may resist culture uniformity, and it can lead to the kind of disruption in a society, which can lead to the social and political conflicts. So in that way, if we can say that there are more chances that the people will rebel against the culture uniformity. Then stifling of creativity. Culture uniformity can discourage the alternative perspectives and creative expressions, and they will actually limit the innovations. So there will be less chances of creativity in case of the culture uniformity, as all people are like-minded. So they will tend to think in the same way, they will tend to behave in the same way, they will tend to follow the things in the same way. So they will try to overcome the innovative ideas. They will actually oppose the innovating ideas. So it can lead to the stifling of creativity in case of the culture uniformity. Okay, so in that case, for example, in case of the authoritarian regimes where cultural expression is tightly controlled, and artists and thinkers, they may face restrictions which lead to a lack of culture and also the intellectual diversity. Then the other impact is the environmental impacts. The dominance of the globalized unified culture can undermine the local industries and tradition. For example, the spread of the global fast food chains has led to a decline of the local foods and also the traditional cuisine in many regions. As we have the environmental impacts also, that the culture uniformity, they often promote consumerism and mass production, but which can have negative environmental consequences. For example, the global demand for fast fashion, driven by the uniform culture trends, it contributes to the environmental degradation and waste. So in order to overcome this impact of the culture uniformity, we must be able to balance the uniformity and diversity in our society. While culture uniformity can have benefits, but it is important to strike a balance with the cultural diversity to ensure that unique traditions and preservations are preserved. For example, in case of Canada, they promote multiculturalism, encouraging cultural diversity while fostering a shared national identity also. Similarly, India, it celebrates its diverse languages, religion, and tradition while maintaining a sense of unity through shared national symbols and values. So it means that there must be practices that should be promoted in our society that can actually reflect our shared identity also alongside these modern trends. Like it is not that we have to just, run after these modernized ways and just forget about our roots. And it should also not be in the other way, like we should not just stick to our roots and to forget about the trending and the evolving ideas. We have to strike a balance between the diversity and the uniformity in our society. Then some of the examples of the culture uniformity. First is the national identity and language. Like for example, if you look around, like for example in case of Japan, there is a very strong culture uniformity with nearly the entire population speaking Japanese and adhering to shared cultural practices. Traditional customs like tea ceremonies are famous there. Also, the social etiquette like bowing are widely practiced across the country. Similarly, if you take another country like France, they promote culture uniformity through its emphasis on the French language, secularism, and national symbol like the tricolor flag and the motto, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So the French education system also play a key role in reinforcing these shared values. So it is the example of the cultural uniformity that it actually the national identities and the language around the world. Like for example, the Indian identity, Indian language, Hindi. It is also one of the example of the cultural uniformity. Similarly, in case of the Pakistan, most of the people in Pakistan, almost more than 80% of population know the Urdu. It is because of the cultural uniformity. Then the other is the religious practices. For example, in case of the Saudi Arabia, where there is Islamic culture which actually dominates there, with the majority of the population adhering to the Islamic practices such as daily prayers, fasting during Ramadan, and wearing traditional attire like abaya. And the legal system is also based on Sharia law, which actually reinforces the cultural uniformity. So this could be the example of the religious practices that actually are that actually reflect the cultural uniformity in these societies. In case of the Pakistan, we have also Islam as the national religion, which is the official religion there. And in Pakistan, most of the people, like more than 90% of the population, they are Muslims. But in case of the India, there is a huge diversity. There are various minorities there. So in regarding the religion, the India doesn't reflect very much cultural uniformity. Then the global consumer culture. Global consumer culture like fast food chains. In case of the, as we discussed, that fast food chain like McDonald's, KFC, Starbucks, it reflects cultural uniformity. These brands offer standardized menus and experiences, creating a shared customer culture across the countries. Global fashion trends like Zara, these promote the uniform styles and trends which lead to a homogenization of clothing choices worldwide. So all the global culture, most of the American and the Israeli fast food chains, which has been spread across the various countries, these are all the examples of the cultural uniformity because these are all the global demands. This is something that has been spread across the various societies and has emerged as a global culture. Then the other is the education system. That is standardized. Most countries, they have the standardized curriculum that has been taught throughout the country. For example, in case of the South Korea and Finland, they have standardized education system that teach a common curriculum, national history, and share values, and this actually fosters cultural uniformity by shaping the beliefs and behaviors of the future generation. Similarly, in case of the other test system, for example, the IELTS test, it is one of the standardized tests that is taken to test the English language capability of an individual whenever they try to go to the Western countries. So it's a kind of standardized test that has been approved by almost every English country. So this is also a kind of the cultural uniformity. It's a kind of standardized rule or criteria which has been decided. Similarly, in case of the Pakistan, when Imran Khan was the prime minister, they were also a struggle to form a kind of uniform curriculum which will be applicable throughout the Pakistan, because in Pakistan we now have the standardized curriculum, but before that there were various curriculum that was applicable to each province differently. Okay, now the political and the ideological system. Like the North Korea, they enforces cultural uniformity through its state-controlled media, education, and propaganda. So this regime promotes loyalty to the Kim dynasty and suppresses the alternative cultural expressions. Similarly, in case of the Cold War, the Soviet Union, they promote the communist ideology and suppress the cultural diversity to maintain the political control and unity. So we all have the ideological and the political system that actually tend to perpetuate their status quo. In case of the capitalist society, they mostly propagate the ideas that are more aligned to the capitalism. Similarly, in case of the communism, they tend to promote the ideas that are more aligned to the communism. So we have the political system that actually propagate this cultural uniformity. Then the media and entertainment. In case of the media and entertainment, like there are now global entertainment industry like the Hollywood, which is popular, and almost each and every country is familiar with the Hollywood. So this is because of the global culture. Hollywood films dominate global entertainment. It's spreading the Western culture values, lifestyle, and narratives also. So this has led to the adoption of similar storytelling styles and themes worldwide. Also, platforms like TikTok and Instagram, it create global trends such as dance challenges, fashion styles, and memes, leading to a cultural uniformity among users. Then the other is the urbanization and modernization. In cities like New York, Tokyo, London, urban lifestyle often reflect cultural uniformity, with people adopting similar work routines, leisure activities, and consumer habits. So global cities like Dubai and Saudi Arabia, they showcase cultural uniformity through their modern architecture, to their luxury shopping malls, and international business practices. So it means that the urban lifestyle is also a kind of resemblance across the world of various modernized cities, like the Mumbai, Delhi, the Tokyo, London. Okay, then the other is the colonial legacy. The British colonial legacy in India has led to the widespread use of English as a unifying language, especially in education, business, and government. So it is one of the reasons that it is still value in India and its impact of the colonialism. So this is all the examples of the cultural uniformity that there are also other examples, like the technological influence has actually propagate the smartphone culture. The global adoption of smartphones, it has created a uniform culture of communication, social interaction, and digital consumption. Similarly, we have other examples, like in case of the social norms and conformity. In many workplaces and schools, dress codes, they often enforce cultural uniformity by requiring specific attire such as suits or uniform. Similarly, traditional gender roles, it create cultural uniformity by dictating expected behaviors for men and women. Similarly, festivals and celebrations around the world, like the gift giving, decorating trees, and family gatherings, will actually reflect the cultural uniformity. Similarly, the global celebration of New Year's Eve with fireworks, countdowns, and parties, it showcases cultural uniformity in marking the occasion. Similarly, the sports and recreation activity also show resemblance, like the football is a global sport with a shared culture of rules and traditions, creating a sense of unity among fans worldwide. And also, the Olympic Games promote cultural uniformity by bringing together nations under a shared framework of competition and sportsmanship. So we can say that cultural uniformity is evident in various aspects of society, from national identity and religion to a global consumer culture and media. While it fosters unity and shared experiences, it can also lead to the erosion of cultural diversity and individuality. Example like Japan's tradition, global fast food chains, and Hollywood's influence highlighted the widespread nature of the cultural uniformity in the modern world. So this is all about the culture uniformity, its definition, causes, impact, and examples. So this was the end of our lecture. Thank you so much for watching, and leave your questions in a comment section below. And like, share, and subscribe our channel for latest lectures. Thank you.